So Trump and Kamala to some extent, but really largely Trump, and I think with great effect, his media strategy is dominated by hand-picking friendly podcast hosts, comedians like Theo Vaughn or you name your other podcast hosts. Theo Vaughn, he's an entertaining guy. I'm not even putting him down. He's just not a journalist. And not everybody has to be a journalist. But Trump is getting so much airtime by going on these podcasts, Andrew Schultz recently, where they're clearly so enamored of his presence that they just kind of banter and joke around with him for an hour and a half. And there are never any really serious questions put to him, and now he can, and given the contemporary media environment, it probably makes more sense for him to just bypass any more traditional journalistic interview. Occasionally he does do Fox. I went to one of the town halls last week in Georgia, which was just a Republican pep rally. I mean, they host these town halls and they claim it's just like a generic selection of women who are going to have a chance to ask Trump questions. And I went around and talked to a bunch of them, and it was people who had been recruited through local Republican women's groups. They were the ones who were given like the Fox invitation to go and ask Trump questions, and they were like literally chanting and cheering for Trump, which, okay, fine, then just don't market it as a generic town hall, because that's a misnomer. But in these many easy interviews that Trump does, yeah. But just to complete the question, my problem is that with alternative media has not scrutinized Trump to the degree that I think is necessary. Look, I think he's probably favored to win if I had to bet. So he's probably favored to be reinstalled into power. And how many millions of times have you heard him repeat over and over again his policy on both Ukraine and Israel, which is that it never would have happened had he been in power? Okay, that's a historical counterfactual that can't be proven or disproven. How about telling us what you would actually do in some semblance of concrete detail if you get back into power? But he's just not challenged on it because he gets to go to these alternative media precincts, a lot of whom have this like affinity with RFK, it seems, and they just butter him up, kiss his ass, frankly, and he's still not been asked a substantive question, really, on how he would, what policy he would implement vis-a-vis Ukraine and Israel. It's just over and over again, this recitation of it never would have happened. So the relationship between Trump and the so-called alternative media, I feel like a lot of alternative media is dominated by Republican agitprop at this point. Not all, but more than I care for. How does that comport with your observations?
I think in terms of the big podcasting world, there's a lot of kind of Republican adjacent, kind of conservative populist stars and hosts that do well, but just across the kind of independent sphere, the big TikTokers, the big YouTubers, big Twitch stars, there's folks on the left as well. A lot of the kind of adversarial political views of those on the left are very performative. When they actually do have access to candidates, they don't ask tough or interesting questions. It's really just a crisis overall in American media. I mean, we had the last 25 years or so of the switch to digital media that shred something like 20 or 30,000 newspaper jobs. As newspapers shifted to online, they still could not compete with these new platforms on social media. I want to be clear that I benefit from this trend. I'm a very digital journalist, but overall I hate it.
But despite my benefiting from it, I was just going to just very quickly. I mean, I agree. I'm the same. But despite my benefiting from it, the treatment of the two candidates in this cycle, it's making me yearn for like when the three networks dominated the New York Times. Not really. I'm only just saying that to underscore the point that I think alternative media has really not performed very well in this particular election.
Could you imagine
a lot of ass kissing?
Could you imagine trying to understand the policy positions, the political environment, the policy landscape ahead of us by only listening to these pop podcasts that the candidates are going on? And Kamala's going on some of these too. It's like you have no idea what's going on in the world listening to them. You get no pushback from the hosts on the candidates. I consume everything. I'm reading kind of left and right wing independent media outlets. I'm reading the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Washington Post, New York Times every day, Financial Times. Read a lot of Substacks. Listen, but this is my business. This is what I do professionally. I'm trying to understand the world. I'm trying to find interesting reported news, political analysis. I'm not normal. The average person doesn't have time to consume this much media. They don't. A big part of my budget as an independent reporter is just paying for all these different subscriptions. Normal people I know will not do that, and I just got to think, if you're a regular person, with a busy job and busy with their family, and the best kind of information you're getting is tuning into one of these pop podcasts. That's, I listened to the Theo Von one with Trump, and they're just talking. It's really kind of a humanizing interview. I think that was the point of it. He talked about his brother's addiction and death. And look, I don't even know the true story of that. I've kind of read a lot of different things about how the Trump family might have bullied his brother. I don't know the truth there, but also I kind of don't care. What matters here are the personnel choices of the next administration. What are the big policy choices? You can listen to these humanizing things about Kamala and her relationship with her mother and the church and music. Again, I don't give a shit. What matters are who she's going to put into office, who she's going to have run the DOJ, the FTC. What's her plan for Ukraine and Israel? Which policies under the Biden administration will she continue to pursue? What will she change? That's what really matters at the end of the day. I mean, I know that might sound a little bit dry to some listeners who want more, colorful, combative content. But look, that's what we face in our democracy, and the independent media sphere is not delivering at all. And the dynamics that I'm sure you've already talked about and you're fully aware of audience capture, of just the kind of lack of basic ethical guidelines and kind of pushback from, when you work at a magazine or a big media outlet, there's a push and pull with editors, with fact checkers. I have that experience. Right. And, when I have big, long, wonky investigative pieces, I did a series this year with The Guardian and my friend Jack Paulson on a lot of kind of covert Israeli government influence operations in the U.S., shaping public policy and public opinion. That dealt with a lot of original source documentation, a lot of accusations. So of course I worked with fact checkers and people who could speak Hebrew, who could double check some of these exclusive documents I got. It's a big process and it takes a lot of work. But for these kind of quick buck, subscriber based content producers, there's no reporting. There's no kind of research of the policy positions, or there's no knowledge of political history. There's no attempt to hold the person accountable. And it's very easy to do, and it's very profitable, but it's not really journalism.
Yeah. So relatedly, I did want to bring up a tweet of yours that I replied to, and people got very outraged, but I think you were definitely on point. This is from October 15th, so 272. Pull that up if you would, magic makers behind the scenes, because look, maybe I'm just, I don't know, complaining, and I'm not trying to be too myopic about this, but look, I'm somebody who has used X, formerly Twitter, fairly regularly, as I know you have, since 2009. It's an important platform to me personally, quote unquote, professionally. I still get a lot of great information from it. It's, for better or worse, like hardwired into my brain. I know Glenn could probably sympathize with that. And look, I think it's pretty indisputable that I was open-minded about Elon Musk purchasing X. I wasn't one of these people who was running around with my hair on fire claiming that it was going to destroy the company. It clearly didn't. I mean, he downsized the personnel, but it remained mostly functional with a few glitches here and there, but nothing as catastrophic as people who had a political problem with Musk were trying to claim at the time in 2022 when he was orchestrating his takeover. But now, Elon Musk is openly endorsing Donald Trump, campaigning for him, holding campaign events across Pennsylvania in which he's holding lotteries where he's just giving random people who sign up for his PAC $1 million. Whether that's legal or not, I don't know. But regardless of the legalities, I do think it might be the most just kind of ostentatious intervention into the U.S. political system by a quote-unquote oligarch. He's the richest man on earth since Mike Bloomberg in 2020. When Bloomberg just bought up every staffer he could possibly find for like a late entrance to the Democratic primaries, put ads everywhere, even in states that he wasn't even contesting. It was actually disturbing. I covered it at the time. And Musk, I mean, if I open up my For You tab on X, maybe this isn't universal, but look, I'm somebody who's used the platform for something like 15 years, so I can just attest to my own experience. I pull it up now, and I see like yesterday I got 12, I think 6 Musk tweets in a row promoting himself and his latest pro-Trump campaign events, and just a huge right-wing oriented selection of just kind of viral slop that is clearly pro-Republican. And again, I'm not against consuming pro-Republican content. I consume political content across the spectrum all the time anyway, because I want to see what people are saying. But I don't know, I feel like there's a relationship here between the deficiencies of alternative media at large and these trends on X, which form the basis for how a lot of alternative media people gain their foothold. And just wondering what you make of this and elaborate on your observations about the evolution of X.
Well, on the Mike Bloomberg point, I will agree, because I covered the hell out of that when he launched his candidacy and was running. Really paid everyone, social Democratic activists, mayors, various politicians, PACs, consulting firms. If you look at the actual list of folks he had on retainer, it's miles long. And I think he would have had a chance in the Democratic primary. He might have actually been the nominee if he didn't face traditional media scrutiny. That, when he went on the cable networks, he was asked about this, and then when on the Democratic primary stage, Elizabeth Warren eviscerated him and kind of ridiculed him with the entire Democratic electorate watching. Elon Musk doesn't face the same kind of scrutiny, not from the traditional media, and he doesn't have to debate anyone. He's not a candidate, so the dynamics are very different. And so I think you know about this, I know about this, other people are following this, but it's still not, I think, very wide known, just the kind of volume of spending that he's doing, the kind of unusual cash giveaway. I don't
75
know
million thus far, right? So he's right up there with Alex.
Maybe more. Supposedly he's giving to this dark money group as well that's running these kind of duplicitous ads, geo-targeting Jewish voters and claiming that Kamala Harris is super pro-Palestinian, and then geo-targeting Arab and Muslim voters and claiming that Kamala is super pro-Israel and super Jewish. It's almost anti-Semitic. It shows pictures of Doug Emhoff's kippah. It's some weird stuff, but apparently he's funding that too. So I don't think we know the true number. He's got the super PAC that's disclosed, and there's some dark money group that's undisclosed. We don't know how much he's given to that, but yeah, the number's huge. It's eye-popping. And in terms of your other comment, that I agree. I mean, there's a reason that the CIA and the State Department became obsessed with Facebook and Twitter after the Arab Spring, looking at how these social media platforms could mobilize public opinion in a way that traditional media could never do. There's been a lot of influence operations in the history of the Cold War and throughout the 20th century, manipulating newspapers and radio stations to try to, shape the enemy's public opinion, to kind of shape morale, whatever. There's nothing that comes close to the power of social media. The intimacy, the immediacy, the kind of seeming authenticity of all the content. Very good reason that so many Democratic operatives and liberals really targeted the platforms to try to shape the algorithm and block and amplify certain types of content. These are tools of the 21st century for shaping and controlling society, particularly open societies where public opinion matters so much. And Elon Musk is doing his own thing. He's very hypocritical in some sense. There's the Ken Klippenstein issue. This claim that the doxing material, I think, is BS, because there's so many other links of other political documents that have been posted on X/Twitter that have much worse personal information, unredacted social security numbers, lots of other personal information that never got removed or censored. So I think that claim is BS. And the New York Times has now subsequently reported that the Trump campaign was coordinating with Elon Musk to shadow ban and block links to Ken's article and to block his Twitter account. So we know that he was really emulating the very thing that he denounced in terms of the Hunter Biden laptop in 2020. And in general,
Lee, if that same logic had been in place in 2016, all WikiLeaks links to Clinton emails, DNC emails or Podesta emails that had been technically hacked, that was the claim, they might have been all banished from Twitter, because you could claim that that cache of materials, the emails, contained private data in some cases that had been so quote unquote hacked.
Emails had credit card information. There were personal identifying information, people's home addresses. The very same allegation against the Vance memo, and most of that Vance memo was redacted. It's really just like a part of the Social Security, not the full Social Security, and a home address, which has been shown a million times on local media, and you can just basically Google it. It's not some.
It's a public record.
Classified document, or classified secret. So no, the excuses were bullshit. And if the same logic had been applied to the Hunter Biden laptop in 2020 or the 2016 WikiLeaks documents, you can make the same argument. But again, this is more just partisan justification.
Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.